So, hello students, in continuation to our previous lesson, we will be looking at today a bit more about the history, a few more theories and also the importance of child psychology. So, coming to the objectives of this lesson, that is to understand the nature of child development and to understand the importance of child development. So, coming to a modern period in child psychology. In the modern period, a child is seen as an individual in a total situation. A child functions as a result of innate disposition and environmental forces. This has resulted in multidisciplinary child development research, where physiologists, nutrition specialists, child guidance experts, psychiatrists contributed to understanding of the child, his behavior and growth. Long-term research projects have become the order of the day. In recent years, there has been emphasis on the process of development rather than merely observing the pattern of development as a function of age, sex, socio-economic status, etc. The developmental emphasis also stressed the personality development of the child, in which child psychologists have an important role to play. Basically, advancement in child psychology in the modern period can be understood in terms of methodology of studying child behavior and contents of child study. Since 1900, remarkable progress has occurred in various fields of child development. Norms for social, intellectual, physical and emotional development are available. It is possible now to predict intelligence. Analysis of the major developments can also be statistically analyzed and then interpreted. There is also increasing recognition on the part of psychologists to unify the various developments occurring in the field of child psychology and develop a comprehensive theory of personality, social learning, motivation and the like. Piaget's description of cognitive development, Sear's social learning theory, Freud's psychoanalytic orientations have enriched the field beyond expectations. However, during the last 25 years, certain trends in child development have become very important. They are establishment of norms of thinking, reasoning, creative behavior of children, mechanisms underlying various changes occurring in the life of children, antecedents and consequences of behavior change, studies of socialization and personality development and the factors associated with them, parent-child relationship, cognitive development of children, use of experimental approach to child forsaking the traditional correlational designs, intervention programs for enriching personality, linguistic and cognitive development from early childhood were looked into. The 20th century is known as the century of the child. So, now we look at various theoretical perspectives on child study. Different theories describe, explain and predict what will happen in a given situation. Sigmund Freud believed that personality develops during early childhood. For Freud, childhood experiences shape our personalities and behavior as adults. Freud viewed development as discontinuous. He believed that each of us must pass through a series of stages during childhood and that if we lack proper nurturance and parenting during a stage, we may become stuck or fixated in that stage. Freud's stages are called the stages of psychosexual development. And according to Freud, children's pleasure-seeking urges are focused on a different area of the body called an erogenous zone at each of the 5 stages of development, which is oral, anal, phallic, latency and genital. Erik Erikson took Freud's theory and modified it as psychosocial theory. Erikson's psychosocial development theory emphasizes the social nature of our development rather than its sexual nature. Freud believed that personality is shaped only in childhood, whereas Erikson proposed that personality development takes place all through the lifespan. He suggested that how we interact with others is what affects our sense of self, or what he called the ego identity. Behaviorists, stimulus response and social learning theorists all believed that behavior is learnt no matter whether it is by conditioning, practice or socio-cultural conditioning. Watson said, "Give me a dozen of healthy infants, well formed, and my own specific world to bring them up in, and I will guarantee to take any one at random and train him to become any type of specialist. It might be a select doctor, lawyer, artist, merchant, chief, and even a beggarman and thief, regardless of his talents, tendencies, abilities, vocations, and race of his ancestors." Thorndike demonstrated how reward helped learning, and Skinner demonstrated the modification of behavior by gradual change or successive approximations and reinforcements. Albert Bandura's approach to behavior development is imitation and modeling. The child sees, he believes, identifies, imitates, and learns behavior of the models. Cognitive developmental theorist Jean Piaget, father of cognitive psychology, believed that the child's capacity for formal logical operation is developmentally linked and is only developed systematically when the child reaches the age of 15 years. Attachment theories by Bowlby and Mary Ainsworth have studied how a child forms attachment to parents and caregivers and how it has an effect on an adult. Now, we will look at the importance and scope of child psychology. Why do we study child psychology? These days, we hear about third wave affecting children more than anyone. How do we help a child? How do we understand their struggle? To answer these, we look at the importance of child psychology. Like all other fields of science, child psychology has come to the age since World War II. Instead of only concentrating on description of child behavior in terms of derived norms, child psychologists have accepted the foretold objectives of observation, prediction, guidance, and control of child behavior and development. For example, aggressive behavior in a child. It helps one to observe child behavior. It helps one to predict child behavior, helps one to guide child's behavior, and also to control a child's behavior. For another example, it enables one to know how attachment develops between mother and child, how the child reacts to various anxieties and frustrations producing situations, how the rate and quality of language acquisition can be accelerated, what is the role of sensory stimulation in early childhood on the development of behavior, how far certain types of parental child rearing practices are helpful to the children's development of personality, how best early enrichment programs can be arranged to promote growth, are all these looked at. For the parents, it enables them how to keep a record of the growth of the child if they are interested, and the expectant mother knows what to eat, what precautions to take, which are the dangers like X-ray, drugs, alcohol to avoid, and in what tension during pregnancy can be avoided before the baby may be born with damaged cerebral functioning, physical malfunctioning and deformities. And child psychology is practically useful to the teachers, especially in the early childhood period. A naive teacher does not know what the basic needs like security, safety, attachment of children when they enter school. They deal with them as guinea pigs or silent spectators of the instructional setting. By understanding child psychology, a teacher knows the basic needs of children that are to be compiled in school, without which a child may quit school. Unless a teacher takes care of the basic needs, he or she cannot expect the child to come to him with a smiling face. However, in our country, Child guidance service has not been developed except in very big cities, and that too very rarely they are psychologically oriented. These are mostly in medically designed with a catchy term of child guidance clinic. This is in fact a great necessity for a developing country like ours. The child guidance expert contributes for helping a child who suffers from chronic behavior problems, speech defects, learning dysfunctions, as well as in giving advice to parents regarding the child's capabilities and deficiencies by proper testing. Child psychology becomes extremely useful in the context of guidance of children. Further, an understanding of the child psychology is necessary because it contributes to a later development of personality and behavior. Many institutes offer a certificate or diploma course in child psychology, and child development does not mean developing a child into the person we think they should be, but to help them develop into the best person they are meant to be. And at school, a child psychologist gives counseling to students and helps them in choosing the apt field of study according to their capability and aptitude by providing guidance and information. They observe students and diagnose learning disabilities in them and provides suitable measures to overcome them. They conduct assessments and help students in overcoming their pandemic related problems. Parents are also given suitable counseling to help such students as to how positive reinforcement and care can help students. At court, a child psychologist guides the students by counseling them in case they are struggling with any family problems or other social issues like racial discrimination or color discrimination or peer group pressure or ragging at school or in cases of child abuse. They help in building confidence and goal orientation in students and help in improving their academic performance through positive reinforcement. When a child is involved in the middle of a court issue like child custody in diverse cases, or when the child needs to testify in the court of law or is a prime witness in any case in the court, then the child psychologist plays a very important role in guiding and helping the child through this traumatic time. He or she prepares the child mentally and boosts confidence and teaches the etiquette required. At hospitals, a child psychologist conducts tests to certify the mental health of a child and diagnose any mental health disorders. They administer psychological tests to create a treatment plan for every client and help their family to the patient to overcome or cope with the illnesses diagnosed by suggesting treatment. They also give therapy sessions to improve the mental health of the patient by working along with doctors and psychiatrists at health centers or at the hospitals. The modern stressful world creates more opportunity and enhances the role significance of a child psychologist in our lives. As the saying goes, catch them young. It is always better to treat any problems at a younger age and nip them in the bud rather than allow the demon to grow inside and ruin them. There are many institutes in India which offer child psychology. Some certificate courses, some diploma, and some with the title child guidance and counseling or child and adolescent psychology are offered. You could also look up online courses related to it through Coursera, edX, etc. online if you would like to pursue child psychology. And when we look at importance of child psychology, I would like to give two examples from my own clinical setup. There was a parent who had brought a child who was studying LKG. LKG too young, right? And parents had an issue with this child, only one major concern, and that is what? A child was getting less grades. And what is that less grade? That is A, not A plus, A. And marks, when child's report was looked into, it was somewhere in 80s. But parents, they said that was not what was expected of a child coming from their family. A child is in LKG and parents want a child to get A plus. Possible at a very early age, what are we making them to be? We want grades, we want them to grow up. But what exactly do we want to do with a child? And now, because a child did not get A+, just got A, parents thought something is wrong with my child, do something to the child. But what can we do to the child? Let them enjoy their childhood, at the same time studies. A child would definitely, coming from that background, given a space, a child will definitely excel. But at a very early age, pressurizing a child for marks, these days we look so much of competition. Yes, competition is there, but how do we go about helping a child? Expectations and a child, how a child learns to grow up in that environment. Too many expectations, and also parents were withholding their playtime, a child's playtime, not going out anywhere, restrictions from that very early age. And does a child need all of it? I don't think so. Childhood is meant to be enjoyed, because like psychologists emphasize, first 5 years of a childhood are very important. It's more like a blueprint of one's life. Whatever we do, good or bad, you are exposed to good or bad. It later on reflects in the same manner. So first 5 years needs to be taken with very good care. LKG, nursery or UKG, whichever class a child is, giving them a childhood without any expectations, not pressurizing them, but giving them the space to grow. Creating an environment where they can grow helps a child to grow to be a healthy adult. And why do we have so many mental health disorders in adults? And why not we see of these in children? Because as a child, what I have seen is the same thing that I tend to repeat. And how can we stop that from happening? It's only when we help a child to be themselves and also to grow up to be as adults as how they are. Looking at a child how they are, irrespective of their color. These days we also come across, a child is not born fair, parents leave a child. It's just a girl child, it's being disowned. But why is that? A child so precious, give a life, help them to grow up to be healthy adults. A child is ruined, an adult is equally ruined. Giving them a space where they can grow. And also, why do we have so many of them in juvenile homes? What makes them to commit a crime? Is it because unhealthy parenting, or is it because situations at home which make them to commit those crimes? Again, giving them a space to grow, that environment to grow, helps them to be a healthy adult, and that is why childhood is very important. And if you are more interested, you can take this up as a career, because school psychology and child psychology is blooming in India, and you would have a very good career with child psychology. And also government has made it mandatory now to have counselor in schools. So you could enroll yourself in any of these online or offline courses in child psychology or school counseling, but with a background of psychology, and you would be able to make a difference in young lives. Coming to the summary of the lesson, we have looked at the modern period, few theories in relation to child development, and the importance and scope of child psychology in India. Child psychology is offered by some of the institutions in India, and it is blooming. And if you are more interested, you can consider this as a career option. Be it school, home, court or clinical setting, child psychology is everywhere. I would like to quote Frederick Douglass, "Married or not, it helps one to understand children around, for it's easy to build strong children than to repair broken adults." So let's make the society a better place with good children, good and healthy children. So when we look at even Erik Erikson's theory, he says that identity is very important, and also in his stages he emphasizes that at each stage we have a crisis, and these days we also come across many of them talking about trust. And Erikson says that we learn to develop trust at a very early age. That is the very first stage, where he says that we either learn to trust when our needs are met, or we learn to not to trust when our needs are not met. And these days if you look around, many of them who come and say that I do not trust. Trust is a very big word. Many say that I have trust issues. Trust is a very big thing. But how do we learn not to trust? How do we learn to trust? It's only when our needs are not met we learn not to trust. Otherwise, you would have healthy relationships filled with trust. Any relationship you will see as a child, as an adult, as a college going student. And if you look at our own lives, how many of us can we actually trust people without any issues. And identity, how many of us accept ourselves as we are? So, he emphasizes identity is very important, and if we do not form a healthy identity in adolescence, we learn to have identity crisis, and that is where it is coming from. Again, going back to our childhood, at each stage we have a crisis stage. Either I learn to be positive, or either I go back in a negative manner, which or when my needs are not met.